Before you watch this episode of our cityCURRENT radio show, I want to invite you to join cityCURRENT's e-learning and online personal development platform called cityCURRENT. I'm Jeremy Park, host of the cityCURRENT radio show and CEO of cityCURRENT. cityCURRENT is your exclusive ticket to attend virtual events with global thought leaders, national guest speakers, and experts who can help you grow personally and professionally. It gives you access to success secrets, lessons learned, learning modules, and so much more. Being online, you can join us from anywhere in the world. Subscriptions are only $8 a month, or you can do bulk subscriptions for your team. Check out growthcurrent.com to learn more and to join us in our efforts to power the good. And now, on to the show. Welcome to the cityCURRENT radio show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference, powering the good in our community, and also loading you up with a lot of valuable content, especially when it comes to the customer and employee experience, which is what we're going to kick it off talking about. We're here with our good friend, Matt Lyles. He's the president and CEO and host of the Simple Brand with Matt Lyles Podcast. Matt, how are you doing, buddy?
Jeremy, I'm doing great. Happy holidays to you. Happy New Year to everybody. I know 2020 has been challenging year for most everybody. And, I, for one, am looking forward to what's going to happen in 2021 and how things can get even better for us.
Absolutely. Even better and hopefully even more simple, less friction, right? That's the one of the buzzwords I know you like to use is how do you simplify things and innovate and create less friction? And so let's talk about when you look back at 2020 and you look at 2021 ahead, let's talk about some of the things that are top of mind for you when it comes to customer and employee experience. So let's go ahead and just dive on in.
Absolutely. Yeah, love to. Well, if 2020 has taught us anything, it's that customers, employees, communities, they expect speed and simplicity more than anything else. And a lot of companies have really started to find that out where they weren't providing simplicity this year, and they've had to quickly adapt. And those that have been able to pivot, those that have been able to thrive, or like more than survive in 2020, they've done that through providing simplicity. And looking into 2021, I think that a lot of these trends are going to continue. But when you think about what we've been experiencing in 2020 and how employees, communities, and customers have been operating, there's a few trends that are going to be happening in 2021 that are going to help drive how businesses should treat their customers.
Let's illustrate a little bit, especially for the listeners in terms of what we're talking about here. And I know that you use a lot of like the restaurants, for instance, where everything was in person, and now the ability, obviously, the prevalence of ordering online, having it delivered through the apps, like all of this technology is creating a more easy experience, a more simple experience, but also one that obviously for the pandemic is putting health and safety first. So that's just one simple example, but give us some examples of what we're talking about here.
Absolutely. And again, you mentioned like restaurants. If you're a restaurant, if you're a small business owner, if you're a retail boutique shop, no matter what your business is, honestly, e-commerce and digital transformation is non-negotiable in 2021. If you're a restaurant owner, you have to offer online ordering. That's what customers expect. If you want to be able to thrive, you have to be able to offer some digital and online experience for your customers to be able to interact with.
And I think that's true now when you look at restaurants, clothing, obviously even the essentials. So that, to your point, is you have to be a digital first company now, and more so obviously even moving forward. Talk about, outside of the digital side, what are some other trends or things that you look at as opportunities to simplify the experience?
Oh, yeah. One of the ways of simplifying the experience is really minimizing those barriers that customers have. And a lot of times, customers will have barriers after the sale. And so a lot of companies tend to focus on the transaction. And in 2021, I think companies are going to need to focus more on relationships with their customers versus focusing simply on the transaction. So after you sign a customer up, after they've bought from you, what are the next steps? How can you handhold them through the experience? How can you make sure that they're getting the most out of the experience that you provide? And one of the companies that I love that's doing this is Patrick Accounting and Works. I hope I pronounced that correctly. It's WHIRKS. So I say Works. They're in Memphis, and they provide a lot of accounting and financial support for small business owners. But what they've done is they've created what they call a customer success team. So once a customer has, already purchased the service, they don't just leave them out there to dry. They have a customer success team that walks them through the whole process and for an extended period of time, and helps make sure that they're getting the most out of the experience, and helps make sure that if there's any challenges, any questions, that they can proactively answer those and ensure that they're helping the customer out along the way.
Yeah. And I think that title, customer service, customer success, I'm seeing a lot of customer success or success, if you will, just in the title type of roles opening up. And so I agree. And the whole idea, like you said, is putting someone that becomes the face of the company that can make sure that they're the liaison, but make sure that nothing falls through the cracks, and make sure that the journey and the all of the opportunities to engage are successful. And so I think I agree. That's a big one, is just making sure that your customers are happy, not after not when they sign on the dotted line, but all the way through the process of getting what they need and deserve for the services and products. Give me one more example of something that you think is really going to be important moving forward.
This has been a trend already, but it's going to be even more important in 2021 and beyond, is personalization. Everything that you provide your customer should be personalized. And that, I think a survey showed that at least 60% of customers will be more loyal to a company or brand when they provide personalized experiences. And that means fully understanding your customers, whether it's your target market and making sure that you understand that buying persona, or whether it's like having enough data to be able to know, Jeremy Park, this is his size, this is his shirt size, this is his neck size. So Jeremy, I think that these shirts, I think this tie, I think this jacket would be great for you specifically. So personalization is needed today more than ever. But along with that, something that's been really emerging, and this ties to the fact that, in 2020, a lot of people have been really remote and disconnected, and they're still going to be disconnected for a period of time. People want connection. People want to understand and interact with other people. So another trend that's happening is reverse personalization. And that's helping customers understand that your company is not just your company brand. It's not just your company name. There are real people behind the service that you're receiving. The other day, I was making breakfast and I opened up the package of Nature Sweet tomatoes, and I opened up the package, and right in there was a picture of one of their associates that actually picks tomatoes. And it said, if you want to hear this guy's story, go to this website and learn more. And then even this week, FedEx, a global brand with a global name, and everybody knows FedEx. They had a big week this week here in December when they were delivering the first COVID vaccines. But what they did in some of their social media was they showed a brief discussion with Don Colleran. He's the president and CEO of FedEx Express, and the FedEx driver in Boston who made that first delivery. So it's not just FedEx, but it's this driver that's behind that. So you're going to see a lot more reverse personalization, and customers are really going to engage more with that. So any company is able to do that. And it's just by saying, hey, here are the people behind the experience. Here are the people behind the service that we're giving you.
Yeah. So reverse personalization is basically allowing the customer to meet your team and to get to know your team.
Yeah. It's
nice.
And bringing it back to people serving people.
Yeah. Yeah. Which, I mean, at the end of the day, a brand, when you talk about your company, your brand, it's trust, it's a promise, but it's the people that are creating those opportunities and that trust and that loyalty and that service. And so it all drives back to people, which give me one thing when you talk about creating less friction for employees, engaging employees, making it more simple for employees to succeed. What's one bit of advice for companies to look internal and create more opportunities for their employees?
Absolutely. You know, especially depending on the company, remote work is going to be here for a while. And when people go back to work, 100% of employees aren't going back. So you're going to have a widespread remote workforce. And because of that, employees are going to need more interaction, more communication, more proactive communication from their leadership. And when you have companies where there's always something new evolving, where information is evolving, where once people could get their information from the water cooler, they now need that information as soon as it's happening coming from you, the leader. So, I mean, it's not so much the technology behind it, but really it's the communication, making sure that you're proactively and consistently communicating to your employees regularly, especially as information evolves. Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the podcast, because you have a chance on your end to really talk to a lot of amazing people that are, you know, in this space and even outside this space. And so you're constantly sharing great content on your end. So give us a little bit of a teaser for the podcast.
Oh, absolutely. You know, podcast Simple Brand with Matt Lyles. I talk to a number of business leaders, thought leaders, and authors all around providing simple experiences to customers and simple experiences to employees. And I've had a lot of interesting guests, and we've talked a lot about, you know, awesome tactics for making things simple. But one thing that's been really eye-opening to me is that my favorite conversations have ended up focusing on people and culture, and the culture that you provide or the culture that you facilitate with your team. Because when you think about all these tactics and all these things that you want to do to provide experiences to customers, all of that will fall flat if you don't have the right cultural foundation in place. So some of the discussions that I've had, like with Brian Dixon, he talks about his book, Start With Your People. Deanne Turner, former Chick-fil-A executive, who talks about her book, Bet on Talent. You know, all of that is around ensuring that you've got the right culture in place. And so no matter what any business or any team or any organization or community does, you've got to focus on your culture first.
Give me some words of encouragement for everyone looking at 2021. Obviously, as you mentioned, as we've talked about throughout 2020, very challenging year on so many fronts. But what makes you hopeful for 2021 and making it a great year?
Yeah. You know, again, going back to people have been disconnected this past year, and people are looking for connections. So you're going to see a lot more people focusing on their community and finding a way to build community with each other. One, you know, just to be able to interact and share ideas, but two, just to be able to support and hold each other up. And that's what gives me hope. That's what gives me hope for 2021.
What's some of the best advice that you've received either in 2020 from one of your guests or just in general? But what's one of your favorite bits of advice you've received?
Oh my goodness. And I think this advice came a little later than I would have liked for it to come during my first year of business. But man, it is focus on profit first. And make sure that you have a good financial standing in your business. And we saw this in 2020, and a lot of the companies that were able to more than just survive, they had not planned for a global pandemic, because I don't know nobody that planned for this, but they planned for an extended rainy day. And that's one of my biggest lessons that I learned, was make sure that your personal finances and your business finances are so strong and sound that you can weather a storm like this.
Yeah, I was about to say, it's great business advice, but it's also great personal advice. So I agree 100%. On your end, I'm just curious too, is give me one bit of advice when it comes to, because I look at you as someone who's so sharp and savvy when it comes to storytelling and branding and presenting the right story. Give me one tip around that, of just putting your story out there, refining your story. What's one bit of advice on that front?
The biggest piece of advice I can give around storytelling is when it comes to the hero of that story. And when you're telling the story, when your business is telling the story, as much as you want to be the hero, you're not the hero. Your customer is the hero of the story. The people that you serve are the hero of that story. I think the last episode of Mandalorian came out today, I think. And so think of Star Wars. Your customer is Luke Skywalker, and you're Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're Yoda. You're the one that's guiding your customer to success. That's the best advice I can give for storytelling.
Think of yourself as Baby Yoda. Wrap up with your contact information and where everyone can follow your efforts, follow the podcast. Where do we go to get to know Matt Lyles even better?
Absolutely. You can find me on any podcast channel. It's Simple Brand with Matt Lyles. And today, you can access my simple playbook. It's the 6 behaviors that you and all of your team members can instill to provide simple experiences to your customers and your employees. And you can grab that at mattlyles.com/simple playbook.
Well, Matt, always fun talking to you. Good to catch up with you. Greatly appreciate all you do and for coming on the show.
Jeremy, thank you so much. And again, happy holidays, happy new year. Here is to all of us being prosperous in 2021.